to Chit Chat with Trenton. I'm Trenton, and today I will be talking about a jacked up thief, Game of Thrones, and delightful dogs. Let's get started, shall we? So this week on our daily Dunderhead, I have a real treat for you. So a man in the state of Washington one night decides, hey, I need some new tires. I mean, who doesn't? So he drives his Dodge Challenger to a parking lot, walks across the street to a car dealership, steals 4 tires off of one of their Dodge Challengers, takes those tires across the street to his vehicle, undoes all his tires, jacks up his ride, and then, all of a sudden, you'll never take me alive, coppers! Woo! Yeah! Woo! Woo! Oh. I surrender. What a dunderhead. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Can you believe that? They get smarter every day, don't they? You know, it's pretty amazing what goes on in parking lots. Not just oddly foiled crimes, but movies and television studios are using parking lots to film a lot of their scenes. For instance, one show, one of the best shows ever, uses parking lots to film major battle sequences. And with the art of movie magic, these battle sequences take place on the water, yet they're filmed in parking lots. The show I'm talking about is Game of Thrones. So join me in our main feature as I will be discussing and answering the question, why should you watch Game of Thrones? Game of Thrones. The epic fantasy series that redefined modern television. The epic fantasy series that redefined fantasy for a new generation. So, why should you watch Game of Thrones? Before I answer this question, a little history. Game of Thrones, the series, is one of my favorite shows of all time and one of the most amazing shows ever created. Now, Game of Thrones is based on a book series, A Song of Ice and Fire, written by George R.R. Martin. But the show is a result of the brains of screenwriter duo David Benioff and D.B. Weiss. After acquiring the rights of his book series, David Benioff and D.B. Weiss pitched the show to HBO. Now, HBO was hesitant at first because they'd never done fantasy before, but they got the green light and were able to put their show together. They created 8 seasons of fantasy that really redefined fantasy, redefined television, redefined action, drama, all these different categories and genres of television into one show. So, why should you watch Game of Thrones? Well, for starters, Game of Thrones has some of the most amazing action sequences ever filmed in a movie or a television show. Now, they don't just have amazing one-on-one fights or one-on-several fights, which they do, and the choreography, the stunt choreography, is amazing. It's absolutely mind-boggling to watch these stuntmen and actors perform these intricate series of sword fights, axe fights, all kinds of just crazy things. But they have large-scale battles that are just completely mind-blowing. Every season, with the exception of the first, has some form of an amazing battle, whether it takes place on the water or on land. And each season pushes the envelope, culminating in the final season with the Battle of the Long Night, which is the longest consecutive battle ever put on film, beating out the previous record holder, The Lord of the Rings, and Saving Private Ryan. Now, I understand battles aren't for everybody, but just from a purely filmmaking standard, it is amazing how much time, energy, effort, and manpower were put in to make these unbelievably realistic battles and fight scenes in this amazing world. And just so, even if you don't like the action, if you're not that adrenaline action junkie, or just like the violence, maybe you can appreciate it from an artistic and filming point of view. Now, I understand violence and battles may not be everybody's cup of tea, and that's okay, because Game of Thrones has so much more to offer. Characters. Game of Thrones has some of the most amazing characters ever. Hero characters, heroes that you root for from the beginning, that carry through to the end, or maybe not. Villains that are either just so diabolical, you hate them the entire time they're on screen, or characters that start out as villains and you find out some of their history and empathize with them, and maybe by the end you like them, or at the very least maybe you at least understand where they're coming from. And not only that, there are characters that start out just completely terrible and have these wonderful character arcs and change completely, and you just find yourself rooting for them by the end. Now, not only that, but there are some amazing relationships in the show. Family, father-son, father-daughter, mother-son, romantic relationships, friendships, people they meet and pick up along the way. And so that's why the show is so amazing, because even though there's fantasy elements, you have dragons, White Walkers, these big battles, all these out there things, these big things, the show's grounded in something we can all relate to. Humanity, family, friendship. What are we willing to do for those that we love? And not only that, but the actors are amazing. Game of Thrones has some absolutely amazing actors. Peter Dinklage, Lena Headey, Charles Dance, Kit Harington. Really great actors that just really bring to life their characters. And just with the wide variety of characters, there's really a character for everybody. There's sweet characters, vile characters, vengeance characters. There's something that anybody can enjoy. So if the battles aren't for you, then maybe the characters are, because they're so deep and complex that you just can't help but being fascinated with what they're going through. And the dialogue. There's some really heavy, intimate dialogue that is so just well written. It's almost like poetry, only it's not so hard to understand as Shakespeare. But it's just really interesting seeing these amazing actors bring these characters to life with this authentic and humanistic dialogue. So, if action isn't for you, if characters aren't for you, then let's talk about plot twists. Are you someone that just loves a good mystery, or loves a plot, or loves something that you didn't see coming? Well, then Game of Thrones is for you. Game of Thrones has some absolutely amazing plot twists. Now, I pride myself on being able to see plot twists coming and being able to predict these. I really do. I've seen a lot of shows and a lot of movies. However, Game of Thrones had several plot twists across all 8 seasons that I didn't see coming, and that just completely took me by surprise and became some really talked about things in the world, things that nobody saw coming. Now, that's one thing interesting about the show, because since it's based on the book series, some of them, the plot twists, were in the books, and some of the plot twists were changed from the books, so you never really knew completely what was going to happen. So, if you love plot twists, then I promise you will love certain aspects of Game of Thrones, and because they tie it really together. Alright, now if all of that isn't for you, then how about a celebration of our own world? Because Game of Thrones not only celebrates its fictional world of Westeros and Essos, but it celebrates our world by filming in really exotic locations that haven't really been celebrated in other shows or television series or movies. For instance, Game of Thrones filmed in Iceland, Ireland, Croatia, Spain, Morocco, some really exotic places that allowed them to have these really unique settings that let them not have CGI, and really celebrated our own beautiful world by showing, look at these amazing places that we were able to turn into a fictional world. So if you like traveling, or if you can at least appreciate our own beautiful world, then Game of Thrones is something just really beautiful that you can visually sink your teeth into. Now, last but not least, I would also have to say that if you're longing to become part of a global fan base, then Game of Thrones is for you, because Game of Thrones is an icon. It is created a fan base all over the world, ages that span generations. People love Game of Thrones from all countries, all walks of life, and it unites people. My brother and I tuned in every Sunday to watch Game of Thrones. Every Monday morning, we would talk about Game of Thrones. Everyone was talking about it during, especially the last season. So you can become part of that by watching Game of Thrones. And by watching Game of Thrones, you can be caught up and be ready to become part of the conversation again this summer, this August, when the series House of the Dragon, the spin-off to Game of Thrones, airs. And you can become one of the fans that watches it every week and tunes in with your family and loved ones and have something to talk about on a global level. Now, last but not least, I just want to say, for me, one of my favorite characters is probably Sandor Clegane, aka the Hound, because the Hound had just such an amazing character arc, and it was so interesting to see him interact with all the characters throughout the seasons and see how he really changed and developed, and how he was started out as this bully, but then turned into someone he really rooted for and wanted to succeed and just really enjoyed seeing. And he had some of the best lines of any character of all time. And speaking of hounds, it's time for our final segment of the day, Delightful Dogs. You know, I love dogs. Who doesn't love dogs? They really are man's best friend. This is my dog, Mocha. She's a black lab, she's 6 years old, and she's the love of my life. You know, I've always been more of a dog than a cat person. I've had 2 great black labs in my life, Mocha and another dog, Taya. I've just never been much of a cat person. I just had some bad experiences with cats. I mean, one minute you're petting them, they're your best friend, everything's going great, and then the next they sense a disturbance in the force and try to rip your arm off. And I just don't need that anxiety in my life. Mocha, as of yet, has not tried to eat me or anyone else that I know of. So, what are the top 10 dog breeds in America? Well, according to Pet King, they did a national survey, and the top 10 dog breeds are, number 1, the Black Lab. That's right, Mocha, you're number 1. You're number 1. Number 2, the French Bulldog. Number 3, the German Shepherd. Number 4, the Golden Retriever. Number 5, the Bulldog. Number 6, the Poodle. Number 7, the Beagle. Number 8, the Rottweiler. Number 9, the German Short-Haired Pointer. And last but not least, number 10, the Dachshund. You know, I've always been fascinated by how much dogs can smell and how good their noses are. So they just did a study and found out that dogs have over 300 million scent receptors in their brain to detect smells, compared to only 6 million that humans have. And their olfactory bulb in their brain that processes smells is over 40 times larger than humans. Isn't that amazing? Talk about a smart sniffer. Well, unfortunately, that's all the time we have for today on Chit Chat with Trenton. Did you enjoy what you saw? Like and subscribe below. So what are your thoughts, your questions, concerns, opinions, comments? I'd love to hear from you guys. Do you know of a daily dunderhead? Did I convince you to watch Game of Thrones? Do you already love Game of Thrones as much as I do? And how would you convince someone to watch Game of Thrones? Do you have a dog? What's your dog's name? Post a picture of your dog. I'd love to start an open discussion. Please join me next week on Chit Chat with Trenton, as I will be talking about A Foolish Floridian, the book of Boba Fett, and Amazing Alligators. Thank you so much for stopping by. And remember, I'm Trenton, and today I talked about a jacked up thief, Game of Thrones, and delightful dogs. See you next time.